Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dedicated Show. My name is Kate Strashny. I'm the founder of Dedicated and the host of the Dedicated Show. I'm really excited to let you know that today we have a special panel discussion where we're going to talk about human insights and AI and data and how all of that works together. On our panel, we're going to have Steve Nouri. He is the founder of Generative AI, Carsten Bange, founder and CEO of BARC, and Omri Kohl, co-founder and CEO of Pyramid Analytics. Now, before I bring up our awesome panelists for a great discussion, quick reminder that this is a live show, so please feel free to enter your questions into the chat, either on LinkedIn or YouTube or on Twitter. If you've got comments, if you want to join the conversation, the comments are a great way to do so. We'll try to address as many of those that come in as possible. Now, we do have a question for the audience. So as you're joining, let us know, what do you think is the most important factor for a successful business? Do you think it's data? Is it AI? Or is it human insight? So go ahead and drop your answers into the chat. Really, really interested to see what everyone is thinking along the lines of what actually makes an impact in their business. Is it the data? Is it AI capabilities? Or is it human insight? So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers here. We're going to bring them up on stage. We've got Omri Kohl, we've got Steve Nouri, and Carsten Bange. Welcome to the Dedicated Show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to have you all. And I think it's always great to start with some quick introduction. So we'll start with Omri. Omri, tell the world all about yourself.
I'm a tech serial entrepreneur for the last 25 years. Pyramid is my fourth company. I'm super excited to be here this morning. I think AI is definitely going to revolutionize the world, and Pyramid is a player in that space.
It's a major player. It's a big player. Thanks for sharing, Omri. Let's go ahead and move on to Carsten.
Yeah, great to be here. So I only founded one company, that is BARC, 25 years ago. We are a market analyst focused on data and analytics. So we help user companies to make the right decisions around strategy, technology selection, and governance, for example. And we also look at all the vendors that are in the market. And obviously, we see that basically any vendor changed their roadmap once GenAI came to light in a way. So it's super interesting for us to see what's happening there.
Just the one company, Carsten, come on, you have to step it up.
I'm happy with that one.
Awesome. Yes, and I agree. I think not every software vendor, just everyone changed their model and now includes GenAI. Batteries not included, right? That's sort of the new slogan. And Steve, you're on the show as well. Really excited to have you here. Tell the three people who don't know you yet a little about yourself.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Kate. It's the first time, but hoping that it's not going to be the last. I would love to be back again. But essentially, I talk about AI. I write about AI on social media. I advise companies, especially startups, and founded only two companies. The last one, I guess, is probably more known, the Generative AI community. We just hit 4 million, and would love to enable people to learn more about generative AI.
Wait, 4 million what? Tell us more.
4 million followers on LinkedIn. We just hit that last week.
Wow. So. That's amazing. Congratulations. What a powerful panel we have here. I'm really excited to have this conversation. For those who just joined, the question we started with was, what do you think is the most important factor for a successful business? Was it data? Was it AI or human insight? And, as the comments are coming in, I want to ask the panel, what do you think? And let's start with Steve this time. Steve, is it data? Is it AI or human insight? What's going to win?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Okay, we toss a coin. I think we're kind of in mix of all of them would be the best. But AI is kind of spearheading the sort of the change, and we always need human insight. Always need humans to be in the loop. It's super important from many different perspectives. One of them, I guess, would be the responsible AI frameworks and the ethical frameworks to have human accountable.
All right, thank you. You did. I noticed you didn't say data, which I don't know how you're doing AI without data. But moving on to Carsten. Data, AI, or human insight?
We generate data with AI now.
All right. Yeah.
That's true.
But,
Good save. Good save.
I have two answers. One is if I would have to choose one, I would actually choose data, because I think this will be the ultimate competitive differentiator that companies will have. Because I think anytime we have new technology, it doesn't take a long time to commoditize. Yeah? So at some point, it will be available to anyone. But then the question remains, what is really unique about my company? And the answer used to be my processes, my ways of working, and so on. But I think in the future, it will be significantly more. The answer will be, well, my data, what I have, what I can then bring to use. And the second answer is I'm missing an option here, because I'm the host of the Data Culture podcast. I would say you also need data culture. Yeah? So to actually bring human insight to life, that people actually can generate insight, you have to have this culture in your organization, that people actually have the mindset to do it, that they have the know-how to do it, that basically they are willing to do it. And I think that's equally important.
Okay, we're adding data culture as an option for Omri. Which one do you think is most important?
Well, as the host of the Data Shark blog, there you go. I had to throw it in as well. Please follow me. I don't have 4 million subscribers yet, Steve.
Yet.
But some help won't be. It will go a long ways. I actually think that it's a little bit of a loaded question. I would say that you need all three. As Carsten said, garbage in, garbage out. If your data is not, not strict, then you have massive, massive problems. Human opinions or human insights, biased in data and biased in AI methodologies is definitely a big part of it. And eventually AI is AI. So I think that one cannot go without the other. And as long as we can control data and AI, we better implement some human insights into it until the Terminator will show up and we're going to be obsolete, all of us.
What year is that movie, The Terminator? I feel like it is going to happen.
I'm talking from future, so nothing happened in future. I can tell you that.
It's 1:00 in the morning for Steve, so excuse anything that comes out of his mouth today. He's not half asleep, yes. But he's in the future for sure. For him, it's already tomorrow. Just checking into some of the answers. So we've got human insights, human incited data. We've got AI and SAI. Okay, data. So human insight. Lots of great answers. Thanks everyone for playing our game. Before we get into further questions, there is a very short demo I want to show, and it's in the form of a video. It's just a minute 20 seconds. So it's really going to highlight everything we're going to talk about. So definitely stick around and see what Pyramid has come up with here.
Compare sales to product returns across state and country and show a regression of sales to returns.
Thinking. The regression analysis indicates a strong relationship between product returns and sales across different states and countries.
Can you explain what's going on in California?
In California, sales are predominantly driven by the bikes product category, which represents 92.7% of sales, with the U-Style accounting for 93.1% of the bikes category and 86.2% overall, while the reseller promotion category contributes to 77.8% of the U-Style sales and 67.1% overall.
All right, build me a quick slide showing me manufacturer sales by customer demographics. Do another chart showing me product subcategory in a scatter plot, comparing returns versus quantities purchased. And last but not least, show me sales by state in a map, and I want to be able to slice it by month and promotion type.
I'll get back to you shortly, just assessing the request.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. What can I say?
Fantastic. Yes, absolutely. I want feedback from all three of you on what you thought of it. Well, Omri, we'll go to you last. The pyramids is your thing. We'll start with Carsten, but I also want to hear from the audience who just watched this live. Let us know what you think of this ultra quick demo that shows how you can actually talk to your data and get results without really having to put too much context or formulas or trying to say sales, SALES, and this is like making sure that you get the exact right spelling or capital S. They're just talking to the tool. So Carsten, what did you think?
Yeah, obviously quite impressive, and we see basically two key areas where generative AI can be brought to use in BI tools, or in an environment where I want to present and or analyze data. And one is on the side of consuming content, and we see a lot here around user interaction. I think we could see that, So you talk to the machine, and the machine talks back to you. And here, like natural language interaction, I think is the big thing. And by the way, we just recently did a survey on this, the future of BI and how GenAI impacts it. And we had more than 200 respondents. And this was actually the number one feature that companies said that they will leverage in the future. So it's natural language interaction. Second thing is about creating content. That would be the second big area where GenAI can be brought to use. And we saw this build up of a dashboard, by interacting with the machine. And if I just saw that correctly, basically the instructions weren't very exact, or very big, but so there definitely were some assumptions in the background. What would make sense now? How should I do that? So I think that's super interesting.
I agree. And it was actually it looked pretty too, which I know shouldn't matter, but it actually does from a user interface perspective.
It's all about the looks.
Huh?
It's all about the looks eventually.
All about the looks for Omri. There you go. Steve, what did you think?
Yeah, it was super impressive. I've got to be honest with you. It's always a challenge to interact with these products because there are lots of nuances, the complexity of the language itself, and LLMs and generative AI in general is becoming super good at understanding the context and understanding the exact intent, semantic, and syntax. And that connection is going to enable a lot of the decision makers to be independent from people like us, data scientists and data analysts, who sometimes can be a little bit busy or maybe expensive in some cases. So I think that's going to be very helpful in many cases, shortening the access to insights.
Yeah, absolutely. The smaller we can make that bridge of data and people who need to get to that data is better. Omri, instead of asking you for feedback on your own demo, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that came in from the audience. So Chris is wondering if this is open to use in every country, and maybe talk about languages as well.
So first of all, it is open to use in any country. It currently, I think, leverages 5 or 6 languages. It really depends on the engines, but German, Spanish, English, Arabic. I think there is Chinese in the mix. So yes, we are working on adding more and more languages. The challenge, obviously, with non-English languages is the scale and the variety of the language, and that's still work in progress, not because of pyramid, because that's the nature of speech to text to LLM.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we've got so many questions that came in. I'll just ask you one more here from Warda. She says, looks very impressive. I'm curious now, how does the data have to be structured? And what about data quality? How can you handle, poor data quality? And which data viz tools can we use?
So obviously I'm here representing Pyramid. So whatever front end tool you're using, it should be Pyramid. However, there are plenty of other data visualization vendors in the space. we're not allowing or not providing just the backend to connect to your LLM and then use those speech-to-text solutions or GenBI solutions. It uses our own proprietary engine.
Okay, well, we'll ask one more because I think lots of folks are thinking this. Do the questions, can they be even more general, or are these template driven? Because it's hard to tell from a demo sometimes, right?
So first of all, the demo uses free flow. We're now working with plenty customers of us that are implementing Pyramid. I think, Kate, you saw us in few conferences, and the demo on the conference floor is quite free flow, and people just ask questions. It's really up to the quality of the lingual engine behind it, which I think we came to a point where it's quite strong, and nothing is perfect, but it's quite strong. So you don't really need to, as you said, spell out SALE for Q4. You can just say, hey, what's my revenues for last quarter? And it should be able to provide you with the answer. So it definitely uses free language.
Yes, and I've seen the demo. I've actually gotten the tool myself and played around with it, and it's so much fun. Really, you just can't stop talking to it just to see, okay, what is it going to give me now? So it's really fun to see that evolution. So I think, Omri, I think it would be good for us to set the stage. We talk about AI, we talk about generative AI, we talk about generative BI. So let's get some definitions going. What are the differences between those three terms?
Yeah. So first of all, let's talk about the fact that GenAI or GenBI, as we like to use it in our own industry, it's not a feature. It's not just one-off capability that you can completely disconnect from the entire analytics architecture. Pyramid provides a very, very deep, robust architecture that eventually allows people this very easy to use solution. So we'll start with an architecture. You need to be able to connect to the data. You need to have unlimited access to enough data that will eventually build out an LLM for you. We'll have that massive infrastructure that can allow you to eventually leverage those capabilities. You want to connect to any LLM or open LLM out there, public LLM, OpenAI, Mistral, Llama, and the rest of them. So you can actually merge your private data with a bunch of internet data, if you will. So that's a given. And that's what Pyramid does, and potentially others will join that industry or revolution very soon. GenBI is a combination of data, AI, and human insights, right? That's the topic of this session. And what Pyramid does extremely well, and I think that's what GenBI eventually is all about, is allowing more and more personas. One of the challenges, and I think Steve touched on it earlier, that you need experts. You need real hardcore expertise to go and provide insights on top of your financial data, operational data. You need data scientists. You need VP analytics. You need really, specialists. And GenBI allows eventually everybody, very dumbed down users like myself, to interact with my data and understand my business. And if I connect it to what Carsten said about data-driven culture, then that's the cornerstone for eventually making everybody a data-driven person.
Right, absolutely. And I wanted to just open it up for Carsten and Steve. Any other nuances that you would want to mention in terms of how we think about AI, generative AI, and generative BI?
I think in general, it's fine. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, just quickly, I would just add that just like one of the things that I'm super excited about generative BI, which is it's a subset of generative AI, obviously, is to actually help people to get away from generative SQL, complex SQL queries, and to be able just to query with their natural language. It is something that is very helpful, enabling a lot of people, and even data analysts, sometimes it is challenging to generate those complex SQL queries that you might not even remember what you did there. Long time afterwards, you can generate even the comments for it. So this is something very enabling and exciting for me.
All right, thank you. And Carsten?
Yeah, just to add, actually, I see a multitude of use cases. So I think it's not just this one thing. So it's really bringing a new type of technology to life in an environment or something that we want to solve here. So to support decisions or basically make data more accessible. And I think that's something that we see there is still some education needed in a way, to be really clear, because what we just saw in the video, I think, is not the full story yet. So there's even more to do. And for example, just one example is we see a lot of interesting use cases in data management. So before you can actually pull up a chart or create a chart or do an analysis, you already have a lot to do to prepare the data, transform the data, cleanse the data, and so on. And there are even there are lots of interesting use cases. So I think it's the application of this new technology. And there's a wide variety of cases and capabilities that we could use here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to go back to the questions from the audience for a minute here. So I'm assuming this one will be for Omri. Hadi's asking, is Pyramid building a plug-and-play RAG solution?
First of all, it is, and interestingly, Pyramid is it's a plug-and-play for probably any analytics technology out there in the market. So we are.
Okay, amazing. And then we had a follow-up here on our discussion. So we're talking about differences of terminology, right? So Heath is asking if there's a difference between generative BI and then human reinforced generative AI. And is the difference of human insights of a significant level for them to be considered different things? Who wants to take this one? Raise your hand.
That's a complicated question.
It is.
Listen, Carsten, you're the expert. You're the analyst.
Yes, I would say generative AI obviously has a very broad range of usage and use cases. And what we are trying to do here is to narrow it down to business intelligence. And the use of business intelligence is primarily to support decisions. And now this is, I think, is the answer. So how can we use this type of technology to support decision making and everything, decision making on different levels, strategic, tactical, or very operational? And I think this is the answer.
Yeah. So Carsten, you sit in an interesting space, right? An analyst firm. And I wanted to just get your perspective. So you mentioned earlier that what we showed, there's a bigger story to it and we need more education around this. So just wanted to drill down into that. From where you sit, what exactly are you seeing in this space?
Yeah, multiple things. First is if we look on the vendor side, so what the vendors are doing, to be honest, I still see a lot of slideware. So not a lot of things that actually made it to software. But this year, 2024, will be the year where we expect a lot to happen. And to share one detail, we are right in the middle of our annual software evaluation on this BI platform market. That's the BARC score. And this will come out in about 4 to 6 weeks, but I can already share that obviously we looked at the GenAI capabilities and features that all the leading vendors now have. And actually, there's not a lot yet. So as I said, a lot is still in the announcement phase or maybe in the beta phase. And there were only 4 out of 16 vendors we looked at in detail that we were actually quite impressed with, where we said, okay, this is really something, there is already something in the software. Pyramid was one of them, obviously. But so this shows, I think, the state of the market, that it's not a lot happening on the offering side. If I look at the user side, then we also see it's very early stage. So we have less than, if I look at our last survey results, we have in average, we have less than 10% of organizations that actually are in any, let's say, productive state of using GenAI in their BI environment. So it's also for them pretty early stage. We do see that the leading companies are way ahead. So there we have a much higher uptake of this. But overall, it's also quite early stage.
It seems like 2024 is a very exciting year because sometimes companies are just launching and announcing without really being able to execute, which is sad. Hopefully the 4 out of 16 that you just said can actually deliver on what they're saying they can deliver, because I think there's some hype and some excitement around it. And then we get to it and it's like, oh, we can't actually do this yet. So it's definitely exciting to see. And you said this is an annual report. What number is it? Like, how many years have you been doing this report?
Oh, this evaluation for more or less 25 years. Yeah.
25. Wow. Okay. Amazing. I can't wait to read it 4 to 6 weeks from today. So looking forward to that. Yep. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Carsten. I want to move over to Steve. So Steve, you have 4 million followers now. Like, they're all following you and you're seeing their content. And I think you're in a very good position to see some of the applications of this type of technology across various industries. So wanted to get your thoughts on where do you think something like Pyramid can be applied?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can see like this is a very flexible, powerful tool that can probably be useful in any sector. But the ones that I worked as a data professional, I can say that 2 of them, majorly financial services and healthcare, are going to be super benefit from this, because just think about it, the complexity of the data structure, how many tables and columns, and how difficult it is for a non-technical person to actually try to find their ways through these data sets. That's just a nightmare for everyone, even for data professionals, to add all the metadata and to be able to understand how to join properly all the tables and make sure that that the dashboards and results are to the point and accurate. It's just very interesting to see how this is going to be helpful, not only for decision makers and non-technical people, but also even for data scientists and data analysts to quickly do something to get to the point that they can start deep analysis. Think about, like, in healthcare, you can probably optimize treatment plans or get better understanding of, let's say, patient outcomes, or maybe in finance, you get better understanding of investment strategies. And these are very straightforward. Mm-hmm. As a data person, you would like to make sure that you automate your task, you get quicker to the point. So, like, things like exploratory data analysis, it's just something that super straightforward for such a powerful tool. And it will give you some suggestions about anomalies, some of the things that you can correct. And you can also generate code, right? It's like with generative AI, you can generate code, you can automate, and you can save it for reuse later. So these are like very straightforward. As I said, for decision makers, it's just another level interesting. It just cuts the middleman. I just love to see my job being automated and I sort of get disrupted. I can go to the beach and just enjoy my life. But that's just how I think it's going to be for now. We're going to have a kind of these tools as a help. And in many cases, they would just make it easier, quicker, and faster to get to the result.
I think Steve just wants to go to bed, not to the beach. This is at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but maybe to just add one comment to what Steve was saying. There are thousands and thousands of decisions being made in corporates on daily basis. I can't even imagine how many of those decisions are either incorrect or not data-driven, right? It's kind of intuition, gut feeling, but they're not necessarily 100% accurate. And I think one of the advantages of generative BI in the decision-making sphere is that it eventually can help us humans make smarter, faster, potentially more correct decisions.
Yeah, I agree. And so, Steve, you mentioned lots of different industries, financial services, healthcare. So I wanted to ask you, Omri, how are your clients actually using your software, and what are they saying about it when you first showed them the demo? Because I remember my reaction when I was shown that. I think Itai there has showed it to me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. You can actually just talk to the data. And I love business intelligence software and playing with charts and graphs. So for me, that was just so exciting. I want to hear what your clients are saying.
Well, first of all, it's a jaw-dropping moment.
Yeah.
I think everybody, it's the eye candy, right? It's kind of the flavor of the day, and for every good reason, people get excited when they see ChatGPT and GenBI. It's the same. So I would say that I think the reaction is extremely exciting. In terms of use cases, we're seeing three major, I would say, disciplines. One is for just adding more and more personas. People that felt that analytics might be too complicated for them. They had a fear of trying to use those systems. It's in a way, everybody's using Excel, right? So analytics could feel sometimes Excel on steroids, and simplifying and making it much more accessible makes everybody wants to join that wagon of let's start actually getting insights from the machine. So that's one, more personas. Second, it's not yet, I would say, implemented across mission critical decision making or applications, but it's getting there. So we're seeing it in internal HR questions. We're seeing it with support. We're seeing it with IT. We're seeing it with preliminary internal questions. Like, I want to start exploring my customer portfolio and figuring out who should I go first. In customer support, customer care. So that's the second kind of zone of use cases. And the third one, which I actually think is the most exciting one, is the embedding analytics. So GenAI or GenBI embedded into external and internal applications that are serving companies' users eventually, or customers, is amplifying the utilization and usage of those systems. We have customers in taxation. We have customers in education. We have customers in financial services and ERP systems. All of them implemented Pyramid's GenBI as a way to pull in more and more utilization and usage of the systems that their customers acquired. So more people, access to many, many more use cases, and embedding GenBI for external usage are the three more, I would say, used applications.
Yeah, I think the embedding is what's going to really help scale this in a really big way, right? When people are no longer thinking about, am I using Pyramid Analytics, Generative BI platform, or am I just asking a question from my data? And that's all I care about, which is what most people really care about. So I love that trajectory. And I think that's really the way to make this bigger. Now, all fun and great, but I know there are challenges. And Carsten, I want to ask you, from where you sit, I'm sure you're seeing lots of challenges in implementing these types of solutions. So I wanted to just get your perspective on what are the biggest obstacles for folks?
Right. I mean, first of all, there are the natural ones. It's, for example, many are right now struggling with the use cases. So it's not very clear, what do I actually use this technology for? So that's like an early stage. Then a typical one would also be lack of know-how. So problem is, you need some know-how to actually not only come up with the use cases, but also to implement it in the end. But if we go back to the study we did, and we asked more than 200 companies, what challenge do you see? Actually, the number one topic was data privacy and security concerns. So what we see with generative AI, that obviously is a big concern. And we see this is also true now for using GenAI in business intelligence environments. So that's definitely something you should take a look at and be very clear about. So is my data shared? I mean, I do have critical data in my reports, for example. Now there is a GenAI capability, and we all know, okay, this is maybe it's like a RAG system, so there's some public model maybe even involved. So where's the data going, and so on and so on. So definitely the number one issue. And then there is the know-how topic, made it number two. And also still, again, compliance regulatory challenges, more or less in the same area as the first one. And only then people were concerned about their data quality and availability, which is when this is the anecdote, when we talk to companies that already did something, that already have their proof of concepts up and running, then typically very quickly data makes it to the top position here as a challenge, because the other things are typically solved then. Yes, you have good answers, for example, to security and privacy, but your data remains as it is, and often it's not really suitable, and then you still, again, as usual, you have to do something about it.
Right. So we've got to help people find the right use case, sort of the low-hanging fruit to get them started. We need to make sure there's someone on the team that has the know-how who can actually implement. We need to make sure we're hitting all the regulatory and compliance to avoid getting in trouble, and cleaning up our data quality and availability to make sure we can actually have data to put this on. And I think that's a similar issue for most just general BI tools, right? We need someone who knows how to do this. We need the good data. So I don't think these are unique specifically for generative BI, maybe aside from the whole know-how and making sure we get the buy-in and the trust from the team. Like we had several comments come in the audience here. Like, how do we know what's coming back in the responses are actually trustworthy, right? And it all comes back to, well, is your data trustworthy? And if it's not, then no matter what layer you put on top of it, it's not going to do that well. But I want to circle back to adoption, right? And just talking about, maybe Omri, we'll start with you. What have you seen from a client perspective in terms of adoption rates? When you show it to someone, do they say, oh, maybe next year? Or do they say, I want this now? How quickly can we implement?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I would say that I think that the agreement in the market that analytics solution adoption is anything from a quarter to a third for most companies. So it's still not 100% in everybody's hands. And that's something that I think we should all aspire for. And I definitely believe that generative BI is at least a good attempt to add more and more people. In terms of trials and budgets and attempts to implement GenBI, I think when you look at Fortune 100 or Fortune 2K, 2000, even boards have instructed companies to start trialing AI-driven solutions. It could be in the analytics space, it could be in any other industry, but 100%. Companies are allocating resources, if it's money, time, people, to try it not tomorrow, but actually yesterday, because people understand that the reality is the faster you're going to be able to utilize AI capabilities that will make your organization more efficient. Mundane jobs can be retired, not firing people, but actually allowing them to do what humans are built to do, and that's creative stuff, and let the mundane job be done and automated, as Steve mentioned earlier. So I think once people start seeing this in action and starting to trust it, this revolution will happen. And I think every board or every reasonable board and responsible board allocate funds and resources to trial AI.
Right. Absolutely. I think I'm also hearing that from people that I talk to, that they're getting sometimes even pressure from the board to do it, even if they don't think they're ready. And which I think will sort of speed things up and make other people focus on data quality issues, data governance, to make sure you can take advantage of these types of opportunities.
Yeah, I think that what's happening is that, the adoption of technology is slower than the creation of technology, which is kind of interesting how this kind of shifted, right? It used to be there was a technology barrier, I don't know, decade ago, 2 decades ago. Today, the speed is so quick that we are, as humans, are very much behind actually implementing and taking advantage of those technologies. And that's where I think boards, at least in that conversation, pushes people, go try it, put it in there, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, right. So, Omri, you mentioned sort of automating away with the data science work, and there was a question in here that, Steve, maybe you can share your thoughts. What is the future of the data scientist if we're automating lots of this stuff here?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Here comes the Terminator.
I'm from future, but I just like a couple of hours into the future. So I can tell you that in the short term, definitely these tools are going to be more enabler and help us to get the mundane task a lot faster and focus on more complex problems. And for sure, there's a need for data scientists. I mean, we need a lot more data scientists, as Omri just mentioned. Analytics is something that we are not seeing like with 100% adoption, and we should see the 100% adoption of analytics, because it's just like it is already proven that it's going to help businesses to make better decisions. So there is no question, but still many companies cannot afford to have an analytics team. So it's not always about like they don't believe in it. I haven't heard many people saying that. It's more of like, is it going to have the right ROI? That's going to be expensive, and a couple of data scientists from Ivy League going to break the bank. So hopefully with the help of these analytics, we're going to have like 1 or 2 data scientists do the job of like 10 or 20. So that's one answer. But in the future, very, very long future, I don't know what's going to happen. So let's keep the options open. I still would like to go to the beach and enjoy life.
Universal income, grab a margarita.
Yes.
Steve, you said some companies say they can't afford analytics teams. I think soon people will understand that they can't afford not to have the analytics teams, because competitive advantage, right?
Yeah, great.
All right. I know we're getting close to our time here, so keep those questions coming. We'll take a couple more from the audience. But Carsten, I know you had a couple of slides to share, so I'll drop those on screen right now to walk us through some of your thoughts on adoption rates. And we've got your slides up here, so feel free to navigate.
Well, yeah, I think I already mentioned a few of the results, but happy to do that. So this is a study we did just a few months back. So it has been published this year, very current data. We have 238 companies answering. And we were basically looking at this topic, and adoption status. I already mentioned that most companies are in very early stage. You see that on the left-hand side here. So in average, it's only 9% that are in operational use, either partially or fully. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the right-hand side, it's quite interesting. So the lower the bars here, the more operational the use is actually. And you see the dark colored bars, and they are representing the leaders, so companies that are leading in using data and analytics. And we see that they are significantly ahead. So here it's already 28% if you just look at the last 2 options here: partial operational use, fully operational use. So the leading companies are moving ahead way faster in adopting this, and this is basically what we found in the study here, that there is quite a gap between leading and lagging companies in this particular topic. If we look at outlook and expectations, we were asking basically, are you positive or negative about it? Are you optimistic or pessimistic? And we saw again some changes here, or some differences. Yeah, and we see that most people right now say they expect let's say a moderate improvement of the use of BI and analytics, and also the benefits they will achieve. But it's clearly the majority here is on the optimistic side. Yeah, so the upper one we are seeing here. Another result I found quite interesting is really expected benefits. Yeah, so I mean, this is also touching on what we just discussed a minute ago. And what's interesting here is two really stick out. Yeah, with 48%. It's faster time to insight. So it's really the speed, and reduced workload. So it's basically efficiency. So basically, what can we? We want to be faster, but it also has to be less work to get to results, to get to interesting information, to analysis result. Yeah, I'm not commenting, but this is quite interesting that these two are really the ones that are most interesting to companies here.
Yeah, Carsten, just quickly, I noticed that reduced cost is way towards the bottom of 16%. I would think if you're getting faster time to insight, reduced workload, that would inevitably reduce cost, but maybe not.
But on the other hand, we still see that companies want to do way more. So they basically also want to expand the usage. And so, yes, of course, I want to reduce workload, but typically the notion is, but we are not doing enough with data. We want to do more. We want to have more access, want to use more data, and so on. So I think, and this is also a comment on this discussion whether automation kills jobs. Yeah. So taking the data scientist, yes, what we see here will basically automate some tasks we have. Yeah. But on the other hand, we want to do way more analysis, and so we will need way more people. That from the proportion, the type of work that's automated will increase, obviously. But if the overall scale is growing so quickly, then typically we will not need less people in the end. So I think that's also something that's sometimes a bit confused. Yeah, yes, we have automation going on here, but no, that doesn't mean automatically we will need less people.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's always good. I know we're having a good discussion, but it's always good to see things on paper, like what people are actually thinking in the chart. For those who think in charts,
good to have supportive data. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. He's brought the data. I love this. So we'll take a few questions from the audience here. There's one here from Ayush. And Omri, let's have you take this one. How are you handling restricted questions or sensitive subjects? Because nowadays getting data is easy, but using it is complicated. So do you have any guardrails in place to make sure that, maybe a new hire can't ask how much is my boss making and get an answer in a pretty chart right away?
So first of all, I'm here representing Pyramid, so I can only speak on behalf of our platform, but governance is a big story in creating trust. We spoke about trusted data and trusting the insights and actually making those decisions that are driven by some of the GenBI. And our platform is super tight, super secured, highly governed. That's basically why I mentioned that generative BI is not just a feature. It's a big part of entire infrastructure that allows companies to implement security, regulation. We have customers in healthcare, HIPAA compliance. We have federal organizations that are using Pyramid that are have highly restricted data, and it's all supported. I don't want to go into the minutia and nuances of how it's done, but the idea behind it is in order to generate trust on the output, you must have a very, very governed environment on the analytics side.
Yes, absolutely. Can't go far without the guardrails. You'll just go off into the beach and you'll run into Steve Nouri there with his margarita. So comment here from Gina. She was just saying that the demo we showed earlier was impressive and fantastic to see the natural language generation, the audio response fluidity. So she was just very pleased. Gina, thanks for your kind feedback.
Thank you.
Yes, we can. Oh, we always love the good feedback. Keep that coming, guys. Question here from Lisa that I think would be good for Steve to respond to. In property management industry, they're slower to move in AI. So how can they encourage more adoption? And I think that goes along to really any industry that is struggling to get adoption.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, any industry, if they want to survive in the new age, they need to rely on this technologies. It's just about the reality is it's not just something a plus. It's just a must. There was a study, like I think a couple of months ago, about there was a comparison between leveraging AI and generative AI for knowledge workers, and between the low performing knowledge workers and high performing one. And the result was very clear that low performing knowledge workers leveraging AI would outperform high performers. And that just easily shows that you're not safe, even if you're smart and genius and you're doing awesome and you feel that you're on top of your game and not leveraging these technologies. It's just a reality. I mean, there would be a time and place that you need to reconsider, and this is, I think, a good time, good moment to think about how to redefine your business, and maybe that would just change the whole product and service, and not just a productivity hack. It might actually reposition what you're delivering. So that's generic for all of the industries.
You're making me think of back in the day. Well, I wasn't alive at that point, but when everyone was on horseback riding, right? And you became the best horseback rider there ever was. And then cars were invented. And you're like, no, I'm going to keep riding this horse. I'm really good at this horse riding thing. And then, the car going at its slowest pace outpaces you. I think that's a very similar concept here. You've got to get off the horse and into the faster moving vehicles. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Steve. We'll take one last question from the audience before we start to wrap up. Carsten, I think this would be a good question for you to answer, from Colin. He's asking, is the industry building out processes on how to deal with failures, which are inevitable, unfortunately, like terminal critical decisions being made from AI output? What have you seen in the industry of companies handling the failure situations of when things go wrong?
I think we have to differentiate. One is that in many parts of data and analytics, failure actually is quite normal. Yeah. So if I'm building, for example, statistical models, then most of them will not really work or will not really bring an improvement. So here it's really more about the culture, how to deal with failures, and to make clear, no, that's part of the process. Yeah. Until I get a really good model, a really good solution, I need to fail in a way. And but we find this more cultural aspect actually be super important. To be clear, okay, where how is this process going? Failure is part of it, but it's important to fail fast, and to learn from it, and then really go ahead. So I think that's one side, and there's still a way to go for many organizations to be respectful of that, and not to hang someone just because they think, hey, this is like the fifth time I didn't get the expected results, and now it has to be right. On the other hand, obviously, there are some things where we can't really allow failure in terms of, for example, let's say hallucination of an LLM in, let's say, financial data that I want to report to the public. Yeah, so that's maybe something where we all are very clear. This is something we don't want to happen.
Yeah.
And I think the answer is yes, but we are not. It's not a standard yet that has been defined. So. Hallucination is an inherent problem of this technology, and now we have to deal with it. And there are several ways how to do it, and I think this is something where still work is in progress, where all the vendors take different approaches, and where we see how this is being done, and I think this is super interesting. So yes, it's being handled, but no, there is no definite answer yet how to do it.
Yeah, the problem likely won't go away completely, but will hopefully decrease over time as companies get their hands around solutions. Last question for Omri here. What can we expect to see from Pyramid Analytics in the next, let's say, 12 months? We'll give you a full year. Go ahead.
Wow. Well, first of all, Steve has already seen it, given he's in the future. But first of all, we're going to continue to add more and more capabilities around LLM, supporting GenBI. I think, interestingly, the whole notion of private LLM is going to be a big part of what we're going to offer in the market. We're started to work with IBM actually on watsonx. I think today we're still the only vendor in the market that actually supports GenBI on top of watsonx. So that's something that worth trying if anybody out there is a watsonx customer. If you actually want to see the power behind it, Pyramid is the only tool today that allows that. So private LLM, big story, supporting more and more languages, supporting more and more LLMs, public LLMs is definitely that. And on top of that, in order to generate all those goodies, there's lots of machine learning and data science workbench capabilities that Pyramid is introducing on quarterly basis to our platform. And that's for the people that actually wants to further develop those assets.
Great. Well, Omri, congrats on the IBM partnership. I think that's great news. So for anyone who wants to try that, I'm sure if you Google the words IBM Pyramid, something will come up that will lead you to the right destination.
Well, first of all, if you search GenBI, we're number one on that search keyword. So search for GenBI.
Perfect. I love that. And last thing I always like to ask my guests is where can they go to continue the conversation, to follow, to learn more? So let's start with you, Omri.
Well, first of all, you can find me on LinkedIn, which hopefully you guys are seeing us on LinkedIn or other platforms. That's the easiest to find me. I apologize in advance if it takes me a few days to respond, but I typically find my way into LinkedIn and trying to be responsive.
No excuse. We need you on your LinkedIn Messenger 24/7. Okay, just responding. Steve does it all the time.
I'm gonna put a GenBI that is going to start responding to people slowly but surely. I'll get there as well.
Eventually, yes. And Carsten, where can people go to learn more?
Yeah, LinkedIn obviously is a great resource, and BARC.com. We also publish a lot of content there, a lot of studies, like the survey I just mentioned, for example. So that would be also a place to go.
Okay, and I'm sure everyone who's following me is already following Steve, but for those who are not, Steve, where can they go?
Same. LinkedIn is the best, and I'm sure that everybody loves your content, and hopefully they will check my content as well. Some of the stuff that I share is relevant to AI and data science. And as much as I would want to reply to everyone, it's just still a little bit difficult. So I'm going to try to replicate myself, and then it's easy.
Yes, get those Steve clones out there. All right. Well, on that note, I want to thank our panelists so much. We've got so many great comments here coming in saying thank you. We had lots of great responses to our conversation here. Great guests, and everyone's excited for the future. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about human insights, AI, and data, and how all of that ties together. And thanks a lot to the audience for being extremely engaging. You had some great questions. I apologize we did not get to all of them, but that seems to be the common problem here of not being able to have enough time to respond to everything, but really appreciate it. And we'll see everybody online. Stay dedicated. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Steve,
Great talk.
go to
Bye-bye.
sleep.